let's recap the hectic trade deadline from yesterday. Um, most most of the guys that got moved were projected to move. One of them was a shocker to me, at least, and one I was surprised didn't get moved. But I'm not surprised considering what happened last year. But let's get into that. Um, biggest deal of the day was Mike Clevinger, Greg Allen, and a player to be named later going to the Padres for catcher Austin Hedges, outfielder Josh Naylor, right-handed pitcher Kyle Quantrill, infielder Gabriel Arias, my bad, left-handed pitcher Joey Cantillo, and Owen Miller. Uh, Padres won this deal. They need start at least right now for the win now future or the win now mentality that they're going to at least get back to the playoffs. They won this deal. Clevenger's a really good pitcher. Greg Allen's looking like he's going to be a decent guy at the plate. The players to be named later usually aren't the greatest of guys. Um, but again, it's another trade that the Padres threw in a lot of talent. Quantrill's a highly rated prospect. Or not prospect. Quantrill's a really good relief pitcher, maybe a starter. Um, Gabriel Arias, Cantillo, and Owen Miller were, I believe, 9th, 11th, and 12th in their prospect ratings. But even then, three top 15 prospects for Mike Clevinger, right then and there, I think that would have been a good enough deal. Especially considering one's an infielder that's usually going to be shortstop, second base, maybe, and he's not really going to play considering actually Arias and Miller are both relatively shortstops, so they're not going to be playing when you have Tatis there at short. And Cantillo's a nice left-handed pitcher, which the Indians needed to get a pitcher out of that deal, and they got two of them in Quantrill and Cantillo, who could be. Cantillo's probably got a couple years left until he's ready to make it into the majors, but Quantrill's shown he can play in the majors. I think he still needs to develop more, but he's shown that he can pitch. But no, Clevenger going somewhere wasn't a surprise. It was just where. Padres, White Sox, I think the Yankees, Blue Jays, it was the Blue Jays, were the top three teams that were going after him. And Indians just feel like with that package they got for Clevenger Allen, looks like it's going to be good. They had to take that. Hedges going, I was surprised about considering I figured Nola's good defensively. He's not as good as Austin Hedges was, but the only reason they would trade Hedges is because he struggles at the plate, which is understandable. I want to know how Indians fans feel, considering they've given up Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer, and now Mike Clevenger in the span of a year. You've lost a Cy Young winner and two All-Star pitchers who've been really good for your organization, and you ship them out. So I want to know how Indians fans feel, considering the one player they won't trade, or if they do, their asking price is one team. Fort Knox's gold reserve is Lindor. Forgot what I was talking about. But the Blue Jays did get a reliever. They missed out on Mike Clevenger, but they got Robbie Ray, who has struggled this season, I believe not making it past the 6th inning or 5th inning in his 5 or 6 starts this season. 6 or 7, I think. But, Blue Jays get Robbie Ray for left-handed pitcher Travis Bergen and cash. Blue Jays need another pitcher, considering they got Taijuan Walker a couple days ago, or I think 2 or 3 days ago, and now they got Ray, which helps because Ray's a lefty. Outside of Ryu, you have no lefties. So that lineup is looking really good for a budget. No guys that are going to throw you away, going to throw 100 right behind you. But Ryu, who's getting paid nicely, for his pitching year last year. Robbie Ray is probably going to be your number 2. Chase Anderson, I think Matt Schumacher is still on that team, and Taiwan Walker. Rays, they got the pitching now. Now, as long as the pitching can work and the hitting keeps at the pace they're going, they'll be fine. And they needed to grab another pitcher, at least starter. Third move of yesterday was Mike Minor for a 2-player to be named laters. Minor is now an Athletic, and 2 minor league guys are going to the Rangers. Now, I'll talk about Lance Lynn in regards to Mike Minor. Mike Minor was a top trade piece last year. Had a really good year up to July's deadline, and they didn't trade him. Now, Mike Minor has had a subpar year, and he had 1 good outing before he got traded, and they got 2 minor leaguers back. What are the Rangers doing? The time to trade Minor was last year. You don't trade him now when you can barely get anything out of him, and that goes back onto Lynn. This right now was the time to trade Lance Lynn, and you don't trade him. Now, what's going to happen next year is Lance Lynn's going to probably struggle, and he's going to get traded for a minor leaguer. That's just what's going to happen. I hope they don't trade Lance Lynn, because Lance Lynn's a good pitcher. But if he's going to go somewhere, you got to give him up now to where your return is going to be good. And he's got to go to a contender. Was their asking price too high? I would assume so, because that's the only reason he didn't get traded. I mean, hell, they floated Joey Gallo's name out there on the trade block, and that asking price was way too high. So, is the Rangers' philosophy of we're just going to stack low A-ball minor leaguers for talent that's over the hill? I don't know. I don't know how Rangers fans feel about that. They probably want their GM fired or have a press conference to say, what the hell were you thinking? That should be interesting. To me, the surprising deal of the day was Starling Marte going to the Marlins for Caleb Smith, Humberto Mejia, and a player to be named later. From everything that I've read the past previewing and up to the trade deadline, I had no idea Starling Marte was even thought of on the trade block. And this makes sense for both teams. Miami needs to get something going, and Starling Marte is a good player, especially in that outfield that's a whole bunch of young talent, young guys. Starling Marte can come in here and kind of coach these guys a little bit. Let me slow down here. The Diamondbacks get Caleb Smith, who's looked like a good left-handed pitcher, which will replace Robbie Ray, who is now departed. Which that's good for them. They got Marte last year, or in the offseason. I'm surprised they traded him. But that's how you trade. You get younger guys. Caleb Smith's looking good. He is going to be, I think, a decent bullpen arm, and a minor leaguer, most likely, and the player to be named later. So, good move from the Diamondbacks. Granted, would they have wanted to let Starling Marte go? I don't know. They let him go. But that one was the most surprising deal for me out of the day. And then you had Kevin Pillar and Cash going to the Rockies for for international bonus pool money going to the Red Sox. Now, when Kane Bloom went into office, he worked for not the Blue Jays. He worked for the Rays before he went to Boston. So that tells you right then and there that he's used to having not a lot of money. He's used to building a team on budget and using sabermetrics, most likely. That's what most teams on a budget do. So, the Red Sox, who were a World Series winner 2 years ago, have now came out and said, we are willing to blow up this entire team. The only two people that you would even hesitantly say yes on a trade were Bogaerts and Devers. And their names were floated around at the deadline. And the Red Sox got Pilar this season, who had his best year offensively with the Giants last year. He's a really good defender. I mean, he's a good outfielder. I think he's decently quick. And, I mean, he's getting up there in age. I think he's, 32? I think. But the dude's a good player. You don't trade away good players unless you're trying... I don't know. You just don't trade away good players. And you trade them away, you give money to the Rockies for, well, a player to be named later, which, like I've said many times throughout this video, are minor leaguers, and international bonus pool money. I mean, Red Sox fans have to be going berserk right now, considering they were a World Series winner 2 years ago. They traded away... You could make the argument they traded away the best player in baseball. You can make that argument for Betts. They traded away David Price, who helped them win that World Series. You've traded away Mitch Moreland. You've traded away now Kevin Pillar. You've traded away half your bullpen, it seems like, especially Workman and Heath Hembree. It's just, what are the Red Sox doing? You cannot build a contending team on a budget. A budget team is never going to win anything in the playoffs. They can win the regular season. My Elmer Fudd came back. The regular season, but they will not win in the playoffs. And then you have the Reds getting Archie Bradley, which they needed something in that bullpen. I mean, Raisel Iglesias has been hot burning crap for this season. David Bell keeps throwing him in, and when he gets thrown in, you know he's going to blow the lead. You know it's going to go bad. But anything that can go wrong for Raisel Iglesias has gone wrong, and at the worst possible time. I got two more that I'm going to end it with these two. But there's a lot of trades that went through that were, I think, like depth trades. Except Jonathan Villar going to the Jays. I forgot about that one. I think that's a good move from the Jays. You got, if Biggio's not ready, maybe start Villar. And Villar's a utility man. He can play anywhere. Not catcher, but he can play everywhere. And he's fast. He's fast, he's quick, and he's a contact hitter that can get you on base for the big guys like Bichette, like Guerrero Jr. to come in and get runs. And he's competent defensively. Might not be great. He might not be on the high end of good, but he's competent. But I'm going to rapid fire some of these trades that happened before I get to these last couple. Cubs get Andrew Chafin from the Diamondbacks. The Padres get Taylor Williams from the Mariners. Phillies get David Phelps from the Brewers. And that's it. Oh, and I got another one that the Blue Jays did. And that's, they got Ross Stripling from the Dodgers. Stripling's a good enough pitcher. He's a good starter. I think he'll be in that starting rotation. I mean, if you can't, put him in the bullpen. Put him as a long reliever, maybe a middle reliever. Especially if your bullpens are not empty, but if your starting pitcher's stacked, you can put him in the pen. Stripling's a competent pitcher. He's good. And I mean, it's a good move from the Blue Jays. Got to get pitching. They don't need hitting. They need pitching. And they've shown that in the past couple days up to the deadline. But the last two I got that I would like to talk about are the New York Mets getting Robinson Chirinos and Todd Frazier for two players to be named later. It's a good enough, especially for Frazier. It's good. It's a feel-good story. to get him back in a Mets jersey, whether you like him or not. He's not. He's really, I think, a fan favorite. I liked him when he was with Cincinnati. And I mean, you don't hear really anything bad about Todd Frazier. He's winding down his career, most likely, I would think, because he's getting up there in age. I think he's, mid-30s? But they got Robinson Chirinos as well, which the Rangers just acquired in the offseason, so they must have just figured it's not working. It's not going to work. Just ship him off with Frazier. I mean, that's good for the Mets, but their problem isn't hitting. I mean, Chirinos is going to be actually, Chirinos and Frazier are most likely going to be bench players at best. Maybe one of them bats DH, especially Frazier. He's still decent good with the bat. I don't think Chirinos is. But I mean, no, it's just a nice move from the Mets. I think for this one, it was a move, especially with Chirinos thrown in. I think it was a move just to make a move. But I do like the Mets getting Frazier back. And the last one I want to talk about is the Cubs getting Cameron Maybin and the Tigers getting Zach Short, shortstop Zach Short. I mean, Cubs need, I think this is going to be more of a, with this season, DH bench bat. Maybin can play outfield, especially if Jason Hayward sits out. I don't know if, I think Hayward will play, but if somebody needs a break, Maybin's decent enough that he's shown, especially last year with the Yankees. I believe it was last year. If not, it was 2018. But I think it was last year. That he can still be a good guy at the plate. And that's what the Cubs need. They need timely hitting. And Maybin will give that to you. But the Cubs, their problems was with bullpen. And they sort of filled that up with Josh Osich for a player to be named later. But Osich wasn't the guy that I think Cubs fans are wanting to get out of a bullpen. He's not a big name guy. He's not going to maybe be as dominant as some of these guys that you might think. But I think them getting Osich could be a good move, but right now it's too hard to tell. I mean, they gave up practically nothing, which was just a player to be named later. But this is probably the Chicago Cubs' last chance to maybe push for a World Series. So they're trying to do the best they can with them basically handicapping themselves on their funds in the offseason and now the trade deadline. But no, winners for this deadline, I think you got to give it to the Padres. You have to give it to the Blue Jays. I think that's it, really. You could maybe say the Marlins for getting Marte and maybe getting rid of Jonathan VR. You could make that argument. But no, that's really it. I just wanted to recap the deadline, which was a lot of fun. The big name trades went early in the deadline, around 1 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Eastern is when like Mike Clevinger fell. It was Mike Clevinger trade got announced about 1 o'clock. There was no Zach Greinke trade where it's a buzzer beater at the deadline, or at least no Zach Greinke type player that was a trade at that time, right at the deadline's end. This deadline was a lot of fun. I mean, people that got traded did get traded, except Lance Lynn. But no, it was a lot of fun. That's the end of the video. If you guys liked it, press the like button, subscribe down below. That would be greatly appreciated. Share this video with all your friends and buddies, and I'll see you guys in the next video.